This is Lauren Bark. This is Lauren Live, and I should bring the mic over here. There was a unbelievable news story that came out of Columbus, Ohio, on December 30. A double homicide of a dentist and his wife that got a ton of attention right off the bat. I think primarily because of their age, and also because of the fact that they have an in-law who is a professional videographer. And he has a website on YouTube, like so many other people, of the video of their wedding. This, of course, would be Monique Tepe and Spencer Tepe, who is a dentist. Um, may they rest in peace. Today, in fact, there's a double funeral in Ohio, which is just extraordinary. I can't even imagine even contemplating that. But to answer to the question of that someone had, this video is going to be about really the police chief and why the police were so quiet, because the police were so quiet that they were getting criticized as of course, this weekend. Today is January 11th, Sunday. Last night, the news broke, or yesterday during the day, the news broke that they have a suspect in this double homicide that has been arrested in Illinois, who is the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. That, of course, was jarring to everybody. I don't know what everybody was expecting one way or the other. This thing did certainly have the feel of a crime of passion. You don't go to somebody's home and shoot two people to death if you're not really emotionally um, in a certain crazy emotional space, quite frankly. And so, at any rate, I'm going to talk about the interview that the police chief in Ohio did back on Friday. It was a one-on-one interview, but really to start with the fact that two lives have been lost, and have two kids, two young kids, 4 and 1. And one of the reasons why I think this case really caught, there's certain cases that really get national attention really, really quickly. And frankly, this video by Rob Misla, uh, he's married to the sister of Spencer's. He's married to, I think, one of Spencer's sisters. So he's a family member. He put together this incredibly vivid video of these two people who are not with us anymore. I think this is the number one reason, frankly, why this story blew. So I think certainly almost everybody has seen this video at this point. And that is one of the reasons why in the media, when you have audio and when you have video, it really, really makes a story travel. And this story not only has video, it has audio. So it has the audio of the concerned friends of the dentist, Spencer Tepe, calling literally less than an hour after he shows up, or I'm sorry, an hour after he does not show up to work and is late. And that was enough to get three individuals to call the police almost immediately. And, quite frankly, there's going to be a lot of discussion. There already has been about the reaction of the 911, um, the folks that are answering the call at 911 in Columbus, Ohio, which I do think actually was less than responsive than it should have been. Because once you get to the second and third call, your spidey sense should be tingling that it can't be a coincidence that you're getting the same call on the same house about the same person. And there's a little bit of flippantness in the language, well, some people just don't show up to work, or what's happened in the last few minutes, and why am I getting another call? That type of thing. And even with the understanding that a 911 operator takes probably a lot of ridiculously stupid calls. So I get why there might be some sort of an attitude there of why are you calling again and all that. But at the same time, you got three calls on the same person for a wellness check. And there's just sort of a flippant casualness there that was, I think, not necessary. I think that was joined with the fact that we know now that the first officer in Columbus, Ohio, who was dispatched, went for whatever reason, ended up at the wrong address. Maybe he looked at the number wrong. It could probably something just as innocent as that. But he was at the wrong house and checked the wrong house. So, of course, he gave a report on a house that was not the house in question, saying that he did not hear or see anything. And only 30 and 40 minutes after that, the friends of Spencer Tepe are able to enter the house through the back door. Most of the reporting is indicating that they came into the house through the back door of the house. And by the time the police show up to the right house, there are 3 people standing in that house. Now, that is going to be something that comes up later in terms of being able to preserve the crime scene. I think that the reason why the police chief was so quiet, didn't do a press conference, and, I think like most people who are in the media, I was sitting here, and in the public, I was sitting here asking the same question. I wasn't particularly thinking that it meant anything, though. I mean, I wasn't casting any aspersion, I'll just say that. But it did occur to me that there was no press conference. There was no announcement with the police chief standing there talking. There was an interview on ABC6 Columbus. It was an exclusive interview. It ran just 2 days ago. And I think that the things that are said and the things that you can read between the lines now that we know that on Friday, let's face it, they probably knew who their suspect was on Friday when they sat down for this interview. So now you look back on the interview and it has a different feel.
Have been made.
Today, Rodney Dunnigan sat down with Police Chief Elaine Bryant for the first time since these murders. Rodney?
Mike and Terry, Police Chief Elaine Bryant tells me this is a complex case with a number of moving parts. Right now, the biggest focus is surveillance video and a window of time when detectives believe these murders happened. More than a week after Spencer and Monique Tepe were found shot to death inside their Wyland Park home, Columbus police say the case remains active, ongoing, and anything but typical. Police Chief Elaine Bryant and Assistant Chief Greg Bodker sitting with us Thursday to discuss the case.
We know that there are a lot of concerns and a lot of questions surrounding this case, and we want to be able to be as transparent and answer as many of them as we can. Unfortunately, there are some things that we can't talk about for the integrity of the investigation.
Chief Bryant says the complexity comes from both the evidence gathering process and the need to verify it before drawing conclusions, especially under intense public scrutiny.
It puts a lot of stress on us, but I just want to reiterate, while this case is getting a lot of national attention, we look at all of our homicides in that manner. They all bring us stress because someone lost their lives.
Police have narrowed the likely time frame of the murders to early Tuesday morning, December 30th.
Now, what's so interesting about this is that a lot of people were saying that, wow, the police aren't really talking that much and there are not that many interviews. Well, actually, if you think about it, there was actually a lot of information that came out. They had a time window that was very unusual. That time window was in the middle of the night. At first, it was a little bit wide. It was like midnight to like 6 a.m. Then it got very specific. And that specificity, I'm sure there's a reason for that. It's on the police report. As I think the time was 3:28. The time of incident time is exact. And there's got to be a reason for that. And it's probably they saw something on a camera. But the other thing that the Columbus police did that now when you look back on it is massive is they put out a video of somebody walking in the back of the house. Now that is going to turn out to be a huge piece of evidence that was made public pretty quickly, actually. And the reporting that I'm seeing from people who are really, really, really paying attention to this is indicating that, in fact, that is the suspect. They believe that that is the suspect on his way to the house. Well, if the police put that out there, they basically put out a video to the public of the suspect. And I suspect that they probably were fairly certain that that was him. So if you look back on it all now, this criticism of the police that, oh, they didn't really tell us this or that, or they weren't really talking, they actually put out a huge piece of evidence, if in fact it turns out that that is in fact the person who pulled off a double homicide.
That clarity led investigators to release surveillance video showing a person of interest walking through an alley near the Tepe home during those hours.
A homicide investigation, whether it's this one or another one, it's a really delicate balancing act between community safety and investigative integrity.
Assistant Chief Bodker says the decision to release the video came after detectives ensured it would not compromise the investigation. This case has garnered plenty of talk online. Bodker says they're tracking the chatter, but social media talk does not equal facts.
There are a lot of internet investigators. Much of what you see on the internet, first of all, yes, we are monitoring that. And much of what you read is just not factual. We're not going to jump in on those chats and add our comments to those.
Now, I think that this question, this answer that you're hearing from law enforcement is propped up by the media, because of course, I don't know that I need to say this, but I will say it. The media hates people who do true crime reporting. The media hates anybody that is competing with the media. Right? And it doesn't matter who it is, whether they're inaccurate or not. And I hate to break the news, but a lot of these people are accurate. I'm not clear on what this assistant chief is referring to, because I've been watching several of these channels. And just to give you an example, there's a woman that has a channel called Plunder True Crime. And Plunder True Crime isn't doing anything other than giving you factual documents and information. She's really not doing anything other than doing a bunch of huge FOIA requests and then telling the public what is in the FOIA request. And these are court records. These are police body cam video. These are 911 calls, audio. And her name is Paula Mooney, but the channel is called Plunder True Crime. She is sitting there gathering the records and then putting it out in the public. So it's not a matter of her feelings or her opinion or whether or not she's inaccurate. She's just giving you the hard data, which, by the way, the media does not do. The media is editing the 911 call. The media is editing, body cam video. A lot of these true crime folks are giving you the whole thing and doing 2-hour videos and 1-hour videos. And I can never figure out why the media hasn't figured out that the reason that YouTube and Substack are blowing up is because they're giving the public more information. So I think that this question, quite frankly, is ridiculous. I'm sure that his answer, though, does have factual, basis. There are, of course, people online who are liars. So, I mean, that of course, is true. But the fact that the reporter set up this question of, should the public be paying any attention to anybody on the internet? I mean, come on, man. We understand, everybody who has a brain in their head knows that the police are going to know more than anybody else first, because they get the subpoena records. They've got all the video. They've got the ability to pull all the information in a way that the public does not. So that's obvious. But let's not pretend that there aren't people online at some of these channels that aren't pretty freaking comprehensive, because they absolutely are.
As time passes, investigators are racing to collect more surveillance footage, something police say could be critical to solving this case.
I know it's frustrating for people. I know they want answers. As soon as we're able to provide more information, we will absolutely be coming back to talk about that, to give updates, and to be able to give more information. But right now, it's premature for us to be able to say what the motive is, or we don't have a suspect identified at this point.
Now, see, we don't have a suspect identified at this point. Remember that interview It was January 8th, I believe. Now, she may have she may have been saying, okay, we don't have somebody identified. I have a hard time believing that they did not know in that moment when they were doing the interview that Michael David McKee was at the very least a suspect, if not the person. I mean, the idea that the police did not know that 3 days ago, I have a hard time believing that. Now, of course, she's not going to get on television and say to a reporter, yeah, we do have somebody in mind, but I'm not really certain, so I can't give you the name, because I think they played this perfectly, which was they said absolutely nothing. They're really saying a whole lot of nothing during this interview.
Police have not said why the Tepes may have been targeted. Bryant says that question remains open as investigators continue reviewing evidence.
This case is definitely disturbing. It's definitely something that we want to make sure that we pour a lot of energy into to try to address and solve. We want to bring some justice to the family.
Chief Bryant says much of this case could hinge on one detail, something a neighbor or possibly a witness may not even realize is important. For now,
I really think that Chief Bryant and her deputy there were trying to send a message. We don't really know what the heck is going on here. We're still struggling to figure it out. Now, that really actually doesn't jive with putting that video out, because the video, if that's the suspect in the video, they basically were putting it out. Hey, we actually do know who it is, and this is the video. But I think that they were very clever to really actually be communicating with Michael David McKee. And I think what they were trying to communicate in that interview was, we really have no idea what's going on. We're just feeling our way through. And yeah, these things are so complex. And yeah, we've got all this. There was some report that came out last week where Columbus police were like, yeah, we've got this voluminous amount of video coming out. Now, if you're the killer and you're sitting someplace and you heard that, you would be like, oh, good, they'll never figure this out. And of course, I'm sure that the alleged killer, in this case, Michael David McKee, who is apparently a vascular surgeon, I'm sure he thinks he's the smartest person in the world. I'm sure he thinks he's the smartest person in the world, sitting there thinking, oh, they'll never figure this out. I'll drive 200 miles back to Illinois. There is some confusion over the facts about whether or not he drove his own car or a rent-a-car. Some of the folks online seem to feel like that was a rent-a-car, in which case, was he really dumb enough to put his own name on the rent-a-car thing, which he probably was? You could best believe that the police, in talking to the friends of Monique Tepe, you could best believe the first thing that they heard was something about an ex-husband who couldn't get over it. The marriage was ridiculously short, and there's already rumors. I don't want to get too deep into rumors because they're not confirmed as fact. But think about it for a second. If there was a rumor that this guy, and women are really good, of course, in relationships, I will say this. I know my tribe well. We're really good at telling our friends, our female friends, what exactly is happening. And you have a marriage that only lasts, I think it was less than 2 years. And now there's no way she didn't tell somebody what happened, right? So the police are not stupid. The police are smart. The police are not stupid. I know that the cop went to the wrong house, and that to me is just a fluke mistake that in the grand scheme of this story is probably not going to matter, unfortunately, because the act had already taken place. It certainly mattered that those two kids were in that house alone at 1 and 4 years old. But given that the friends end up entering the house a short time later, and the suspect was probably long gone, which will probably be confirmed with these video cameras, let's be real, that probably doesn't matter. It was a goof up, with the cop going to the wrong house. But I think these cops, in this interview, I think what you're seeing is that these cops knew full well, oh, we got you. but we're not going to get on no interview and indicate that we know who you are, because he can watch this video just like I can watch this video. You know, I'm in Virginia, he can watch it in Illinois and have a sense of, do they know it's me or not? And I thought her answers on some of these things go right to that
Evidence.
This case is definitely disturbing. It's definitely something that we want to make sure that we pour a lot of energy into to try to address and solve. We want to bring some justice to the family.
Chief Bryant says much of this case could hinge on one detail, something a neighbor or possibly a witness may not even realize is important. For now, police say patience is key as they work to bring answers to the victim's family and the community. Reporting live on your side in studio tonight, Rodney Dunnigan, ABC 6 News.
And so I think that Chief Bryant and her team, right, of course, they've done this before. They're sitting there thinking, we're not saying anything. We're not going to sit here and say that, you know, hey, we're close to a suspect. Hey, everybody, we might have somebody tomorrow. Why would she say that? Why would she be dumb enough? I mean, nobody's going to do that. You don't want to tip off this guy. He could buy like tickets to Spain and be out of the country. And then it's hard to get him and all this other stuff. It's annoying enough they got to extradite from, of course, Illinois. But again, I thought it was interesting to go back to the video that came out. This was like I should get a beat on exactly what day this came out. I want to say this was 5 days ago. This video coming out 5 days ago was, to me, my reaction to it initially was, oh, that's probably not the person. That's probably just some random, they just, they put it out to put it out, right? And really give media something to do. But I didn't actually think this was the person. I thought this was just a rando walking in the back of the house. And now it turns out that, in fact, I should say it this way. We haven't confirmed that that's a suspect, McKee, but there's several people online who I think are very good sources who are point blankly saying that that's him. Now, that means that the police did, in fact, put out, again, a major piece of evidence. Now, to end here, I mean, this is an incredibly sad story. And I think the reason it connects with everybody is just basic. It's a young couple. You've got this video, this vivid video of these two people. Even though it's 5 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's still, you get a sense of who these people are. This marriage happened during COVID, and it was a fairly small event in a house. It looks like it's their house. And so it's not the big, grand, crazy wedding that they probably wanted it to be. But you could see it's her father officiating. She's incredibly sad to think of all this. The father's officiating this. And it's a small, very close event with a few people. And I just think, and you see the hairdresser has a mask on. Again, this is COVID was not completely over. This is 2021. So 2021, we were still dealing with, masks and everything else. And I just think that this is one of the reasons why I think most normal human beings can watch this and see a part of themselves, not just say that, okay, it's not that you so much see a part of yourself in this, but you see, if you don't see a part of yourself, we've all been to weddings. We've all been to this scene, where there's two relatively young people standing there in their 30s and their family members. And I don't care if it's a big wedding or a small wedding, you know what that is. The other thing that I think is connecting in this is that he was a dentist. Everybody's been to the dentist. And when people hear things like a well-liked dentist, a popular dentist, the folks at the practice, their reaction to him missing for only an hour is like this over concern. I dare say that I think if I was missing for an hour, I don't know that anybody would notice. I mean, I don't know if anyone would notice that. But obviously, if you're a doctor and you're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain time, people understand that if you're not there, you're missing an appointment, you have a patient waiting. I think a lot of people identify with that. They just identify with that. But in most stories, you don't have vivid video like this. You don't have video of people who are, you know, frankly, this guy, Rob Misla, is an extraordinary videographer. I mean, this is really good video. And it isn't just that they're attractive or they're young or anything. If you look at his YouTube page, he has other weddings on there. And he is very good. He's just very good at his shot choices, and it brings it into a space of understanding that I think most people, certainly, we've all been to a wedding and we've all been to the dentist. I mean, like, it's not hard to see why some of these cases blow up, and the extraordinary nature of thinking that somebody would come into your house, come into your home. My boyfriend and I were talking about who we thought it was the other day, and he's retired law enforcement, and my father was law enforcement, and I've got several other law enforcement folks in my family. And whether you have or not, it's just a point of curiosity. How the hell are two people murdered at age 38 and 36 in their home with two kids in the house? You're gonna want to know who the hell did that. I mean, it's just what's going on here on December 30, so it's like the day before New Year's. All of that put together has made people dial in on this story. But one of the things that we were talking about was maybe a former disgruntled patient scenario. Dentistry, as everybody knows, is not comfortable. He was an oral surgeon. I have a friend of mine that's an oral surgeon, and it's funny because I weirdly have several friends who are dentists. And I've had my fair share of things that I've had to go to the dentist for, and it does matter, bedside manner of a dentist. So when I heard, oh, he's a popular dentist, I'm thinking, oh, that's why the friends and everybody's so concerned, because it's definitely a part of medicine that most people do. Obviously, nobody looks forward to going to the dentist, and when you have a good doctor, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So at any rate, I think that was another reason, even though people are not necessarily going to articulate all of that. He was also too, interestingly enough, Spencer Tepe was involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and there was a sweet piece of journalism posted in Columbus, Ohio, on his work with Big Brothers, and he took on a young Hispanic kid that his mother was. They were interviewing the kid's mother, and not only was he the big brother to the kid, but he was the big brother to the kid for a really long period of time. Because typically the way Big Brothers Big Sisters works is, you do it when you can, but then typically people get some life altering thing, like they get married or have kids, they get busy, and you do it for like a year or so. Well, Spencer Tepe had this kid as his, mentee for years. Well, the kid was like in grade school, and then the kid is like the guy's like in college. And so he really kept up with them. And the mother was in the interview saying, they made us a part of their family. We were over their house. We were hanging out with them. It was really, really giving you a sense that this person was a great, these two people, not just him, the wife as well, were nice people, and so all of that put together, I do often wonder, as somebody who's been in journalism, why certain stories blow up and why other stories do not blow up. And you say to yourself, why is this story any bigger than any of the other murders that we have? We do have, unfortunately, in this country, we had a mass shooting in Mississippi the other day that I didn't even see on the news. I think it was 5 people or 4 people dead in Mississippi, mass shooting. And here we have a double homicide, and it just gets everybody's attention immediately. And I think it's just the convergence of all of those things. It's an incredibly sad story. Everyone can see their friends, the concern that their friends had. Shout out to the friends of Monique and Spencer Tepe. Good for them. They pushed, we want a welfare check. Then they go out to the house. They don't just wait for the cops to do whatever. They go out to the house and get into the house. And of course, one of the biggest questions that has not been answered in this incredibly tragic story, disturbingly tragic story. I mean, what a waste. These people didn't even get to see their 40th birthday. I mean, it's hard to think about that. I don't care who it is, where it is, or anything else. It's hard when young people die and it's just for nothing. And then we're finding out it's some dumbass ex-husband that was probably sitting around stewing for. I mean, these people got divorced in 2017. The year is 2026, and this guy still didn't get over it. I mean, it is just. I hope the behavioral panel guys. One of my favorite YouTube channels is the behavior panel. 4 guys that do expert level, incredible level personality analysis and behavioral analysis. I suspect that they will do this case. If there's any sort of video back there of the suspect or an interrogation, I hope that they do this case because it will be interesting to analyze why in this world would somebody get it into their head that it was a good idea to drive 200 miles. And yeah, we've all, there's not a person alive that hasn't had a bad breakup or you felt badly about it. You wish you could get back with the person. You can't. Sometimes it's not even that you even went out with the person. Somebody you wanted that you couldn't have, and then they're going out with somebody else. I mean, everybody has had that happen to them. Like, there's not a person on this planet that hasn't had an unrequited situation where you just were so frustrated that you couldn't get that person and they weren't interested in you and they're going out with somebody else. And a lot of times you have to witness it to some extent. You run into them or you're at the same events or all of that, and I think that that's hard. I mean, that's hard. That's hard to deal with. But this is now 5-6 years later. The guy is in Illinois, they're in Ohio, and he drives in and does this, allegedly. Let's wait for the confirming facts. I do think the confirming facts will be heard in court at the arraignment tomorrow morning in Illinois. But it feels right, that's for sure. Shout out to the Columbus Police Department. It really didn't take that long. I mean, I know a lot of people were complaining about the Columbus Police Department, but I think they did great. I mean, I thought that their low-key approach was I had a feeling there was a reason for that, and now we're finding out there was, because you could mess up the case talking too much. People talk too much, Keeping your mouth shut is usually a really good idea. And Devontae, how you doing? Thanks for your compliments. Question here. I do think race and their affluence and everything else you have discussed played a role in this going national as a news story. Well, we all understand certainly that race and affluence, money, the big house on the hill and all this other stuff, the attractive lady, everyone understands that the media tends to report on people. First of all, the media tends to be controlled by white folks, and white folks value other white folks. That's just generally, and there's a certain script that goes into these stories that I really get tired of, that never goes away. I'm so tired of mainstream media, I can't even tell you. But one of the things that you heard, like right off the bat, without even seeing anybody's picture, was, everybody's shocked that this doesn't happen in this neighborhood, and this is not what happens in this neighborhood. Well, come on, I'm from New York. My dad was a cop in New York in the one of the worst sets of years from homicide in New York, which was the 1990s. New York is a city of 8 million people. I'm pretty sure this year they had less than 300 homicides. It's a city of 8 million people, less than 300 homicides. If you do the math, it's like 0.00032 something, the percentage of the population that is either involved in the murder as a perpetrator or the victim. It is rare. It is unlikely that anybody gets murdered. See, the media doesn't want to tell you that because they want you watching that screen. And to get you to watching that screen, we got to be talking about murder and debauchery. If it bleeds, it leads, right? So one of the things that people have to understand is being murdered is rare. It is extremely rare. And I'll tell you what's even more extremely rare is if you get murdered by somebody who's a stranger. That is extremely, extremely rare. Now, people who want you to believe that it isn't have an agenda. And their agenda is usually more funding for something to make you scared, getting you to buy these Ring cameras and door cameras and all that. And I totally understand that these Ring cameras have been beneficial in solving this crime. But there's money behind a lot of what you see pushed when it comes to crime policy. Big money. Gun purchases, people worrying about this and that. The chances of you getting murdered are like 1 in a trillion. 1 in a trillion. Which, by the way, makes this story even that much more shocking. And I don't care what anybody says about, drug dealers or crime or murder happens. Murder is not a casual thing that just happens all the time and just happens in certain areas and not others. And it is a rare thing, and it should be treated as a big deal. It was good to hear the police chief specifically go out of her way to say, I know that this story is getting a lot of attention, but we give attention to every crime like this when somebody loses their life. It is a huge, huge thing. But again, even though I do, of course, think that race and affluence play a role, certainly, in what is covered by the media, what isn't, how it's covered, how comprehensively it's covered, I don't really think that, any apology should be made for the fact that the friends of Spencer Tepe and Monique Tepe happen to be more dialed in to community than perhaps the friends of somebody that it happens on the 6 o'clock news and you never see a name, you never see a face, and you never see anything. You never see a full story of a human being, which is frankly typically what happens. When you have a person who's a doctor, a person who is involved in community, like one of the stories we heard about Spencer Tepe is that they have a lot of people over, a lot of events over their house, a lot of social events. One of the friends that called the police first on December 30 saw him the day before. So it wasn't like these people were low level, under the radar types of personalities. She stay at home mom, he's a dentist, he's a doctor. I was surprised to hear what his commute time was. His commute time was an hour and a half. I'm like, wow, that is just a long commute time. And you would think they would, I don't know, live closer to the office. But okay, that was what the commute time was. So at any rate, sure, affluence has to do with it. But I do think that there's some commonalities about their particular story that everyone can relate to, regardless of economic strata, regardless of race, and regardless of age. I mean, if you're an older person watching this story, you know how it is to go to work every day, if you go to the commute, have the 2 kids that are 1 and 4 years old. If you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a mom, stay-at-home or not, you know what it is to have a 4-year-old or 1-year-old, 1-year-old, 4-year-old. I mean, so there's some identifiable markers, even though they're more affluent than most people. And again, the commonality of a dentist. It's like everybody's been to the dentist. It's not like he's not an orthopedic surgeon. He's not some weird, like this guy who might, the ex-husband was a vascular surgeon. Vascular stuff is a very particular science. I mean, I've never been to a vascular surgeon, but everybody's been to the dentist. Everybody's been to the dentist. So that right there is a thing. And then, you see the pictures of him in the Ohio State. He went to the Ohio State University. That's relatable to a lot of people. I mean, I just think that there's some very, very big and obvious markers here that make most people, particularly that wedding, again, driven by that wedding video, makes most people look at this video and the whole thing, and you're just like, yeah, I've seen that wedding. I've been to that wedding. I've been to that thing. I mean, I've been to that wedding 20 years ago. I've been to that wedding last year. And it's just, I think also more than anything else, and I think certain things like this transcend race and economics, it is just sad to think about two people dying before the age of 40 by homicide. I mean, it's not a car accident. It's not a, they drowned accidentally on vacation. This is their lives were violently taken. And I also think it puts most people in a space of, I mean, interestingly enough, my boyfriend has a new gun, and we went to a range yesterday in Virginia. We didn't get to shoot because the place was crowded. It was Saturday. It was sort of a dump day to go, so we're gonna go on Tuesday. But I bring that up to say that this story had been on my mind all week, and we've been talking about it. And I thought, I'm not a big gun nut, even though I grew up around guns, and my father was a hunter safety instructor. He was a gun nut, and he was a cop, so guns all over the place. But but he of course trained me in safety and would take me to the range from time to time. But I've never been like, oh my God, I've got to have a gun. But I got to tell you something. Listening to this story had me shopping for a gun yesterday, because this guy broke into their house. We still don't know how he got in, which is one of the biggest questions here. I happen to think that it's not that hard to break into a house. So I know a lot of people online are like, oh my God, how did he get into the house? But I think he just broke into the house. I think he probably broke into the back door of the house. I just don't think it's that hard. You break into a window. The house had big windows. We know now that there were at least 3 people in the house when the cops got there on December 30. How did they get into the house? Well, the door was probably open, or they broke in. Now, one of them could have been a trusted friend that had the key or the code to the door. Apparently, it was a keypad door. I happen to have a house in my life that has a keypad door. We give out that keypad door all the time to people who have to get in the house. So I mean, it's like that we trust, that we know aren't going to do so. So it's like I could see the idea of someone having the key to the door, or the key code to the door. I really don't think that that's a particularly unusual thing, and I don't think it's an unusual thing that he just broke in. Of course, it would be unusual that this person, an ex-husband, would not have the key code to the door. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's hard to break into a house. I think we're going to end up finding out that he broke into the house. But remember what time we're talking about. 3 a.m, 2 a.m. That's got me spooked. I mean, that's got me thinking, man, if I was in a house, and one of the houses in my family happens to be fairly large, and if I was upstairs and I heard somebody coming into the house, I mean, I would want a sidearm. I mean, it happens to be in a jurisdiction where you're not allowed to have a sidearm, but I'm just saying, unless you go through all sorts of crazy stuff. But I'm just saying that I think that this gives people a very uneasy feeling happening in somebody's home. Okay, so that is a I just think that has got whether you live in a house or an apartment, you understand the uneasy feeling of hearing a noise at night, hearing something and thinking in the back of your head that somebody could be coming into the house. I mean, so all that said, again, I think it's relatable. It puts people on edge that 2 people are dead like this. And sure, affluence plays a role, but I do think this is definitely a disturbing story. It reminds me, it's right on the level of the story in Oregon with the 4 young people who were murdered by the fellow classmate who just murders 4 people one day. And it's like, what? So I mean, most Americans, of course, have not been to college, have not gone to college, do not have a degree. Certainly, though, we've all been to high school. We've all been in that clique of friends where you're in the clique of friends and you're young and hanging out or whatever. And this guy does a quadruple homicide. Oh, God. So I just, and then, the question of who's going to take care of these kids. And I think it's just relatable. I think it's very relatable. I think when the people are relatable, that's what blows up a story like this, and I think that's a bigger piece than people might realize. In this area of the city, they typically don't expect crime to happen there, and I think there was probably a spare key somewhere under the mat. Yeah, my mother has a my mother has a house, and she has this little habit of putting the spare key under a gourd, and you're in a place where if you put a spare key under the rock or something in front of the house, nobody would figure that out. I mean, nobody would figure it out. Nobody would see it. Nobody would know it was there, you know. And if I didn't have my keys and she said, "Hey, well, there is a spare key under the rock on the left," we could have that code, and they may have had that. But I suspect that given the reaction of the friends and given the commentary about how many friends they had, how many events they had at their house, this sounds like a couple with a ton of friends. And you best believe, particularly if his work was an hour and a half away. So he's not around the corner. The dentist office is not around the corner. It's an hour and a half away. So you probably would have a trusted friend that has a spare key. She's got 2 young kids in the house. You're out and about dealing with whatever their needs are. Yeah, certainly. I think his parents, I can't remember whether it's his parents or her parents. I think it's his parents are 2 hours away. I don't know where exact state they are, but 2 hours away, which is not that far away, really. It's not far away, but I do think that all of those things put together is what tells you that. I mean, you just feel it the minute I saw the story. The minute I saw double homicide, and I heard the word dentist, I thought at his house. I thought that's going to be a big story. Sometimes stories blow up because the media market that the story is near. So New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Remember that Columbus is close to Chicago. And so the Chicago media market and the Ohio media market is nothing to laugh at either. That a lot of times will blow up a story. I mean, we get a lot of times mass shootings in the South and nobody's even reporting on it because it's just there's no big media market outside of Texas and of course Florida. But if you get anything in Mississippi or Louisiana, it's like a real quiet. It just it's just the proximity of media a lot of times. At any rate, I'll be back with whatever happens next. That I'll probably comment on the media aspect of this more than anything, and it's an extremely sad story. You just wish you could, in life, dial back the hands of time and warn people. It's just a terrible thing if it turns out to be her ex-husband, who just can't get over it or whatever the heck his problem is. But allegedly, that's who it is. And this is an extremely sad story. This is Lauren Burke. I will be back soon, probably talking about Kristi Noem, who is quite a trip. There's so much to say. Thanks everybody for watching. Hit the like button if you would, and I really, really appreciate it.
Somewhere. What's going on? Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching when I left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's blowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, my grandmother's house is in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone had
get out. It was great.
blown up our spot.
This show was freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it, man. Love it.